The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. I'm so delighted to introduce my guest today, Bill Cirone, recently retired Superintendent of Santa Barbara County Schools after 34 years of service and leadership. Congratulations, Bill, on your retirement, and welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Susan.
Thank you. Today we get an opportunity to peek into your past, your path to County Superintendent of Schools, and also get a chance to talk with you to peek into your future, what you'll do in retirement. So thank you again, Bill, for being here. Bill, you served as County Superintendent of Schools for 34 years. The community of Santa Barbara has heard your vision, your passion, your message for all these years, but they've also heard your voice. And the voice has a very distinct accent from Brooklyn. So let's start there. Let's go back into the past. Tell us a bit about growing up in Brooklyn, your childhood. Paint us that picture.
Sure. First of all, you could take the boy out of Brooklyn, but you can't take Brooklyn out of the boy. And the voice is part of what remains. And those were great years, really. Brooklyn and Williamsburg, the section I grew up in, at the time was considered a ghetto and high rises and inner city type life. To me, it was great living. It was all about a sense of community. The games that you played were street games that didn't exist in a lot of places. All you needed was a rubber Spalding, and you could play stickball and box ball and all kinds of games like that. Stoop ball. You'd play late at night under the lights, the street lights. The adults on hot nights would sit out on the stoops and socialize and be the fans, so you'd have a crowd. And everyone took care of each other. So I never really felt deprived. I have wonderful memories from my early years in Brooklyn, and I have the accents as a memoir that lets people know where I'm from.
So you went from Brooklyn and took your accent and took it to Providence College in Rhode Island and majored in political science. And then you also attended New York University, where you got your master's degree in education. So tell us then, what motivated you to teach? What was the lure? I
really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I had an uncle who was a social studies teacher. He was kind of my hero, mentor, role model. And I followed him around in Brooklyn. We lived near each other there. And he took me to teacher meetings, and I just decided, I wanted to be like him. And he also actually told me about, because I did graduate in political science, and I didn't have any education degree experience, and there was a one-year program where you not only got a credential, but you also got a master's degree with additional credits. So I enrolled in that program, and the rest is history.
So then let's talk about your first years teaching in Harlem, PS 125 in Harlem. So can you tell us about that first job?
Well, first I got to give you some context. Yeah, and it was a great overall experience, and I chose that school because it was one of the schools I student toured at. The context is you really have to think in terms of the 60s. That was 1961, I believe. And the schools then were grouped homogeneously. Education has changed for non-educators. What that means is you group kids by ability. The school was very large, K to 6, 2,000 kids, 6th grade. I taught 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade. with the about 11 classes, so, and I volunteered for the bottom class, which was 611, and this is on a grouping where those kids were the lowest. And I always had the philosophy that if what you call people and how you label them is often how they respond. So I was really, based on my own experiences, I was never a good learner myself in school. I never really did great in school. And I really wanted to see if how I could do with a group of kids who had had bad school experiences and treating them with respect, doing a hands-on type learning experiences that was relevant to their world and their life, giving them meaning and a way to serve in the community, how they responded. And it was great years, and I learned a lot of great lessons.
Sounds like you really did learn a lot of lessons, and it helped to shape your philosophy of education. So say a little bit more about that philosophy of education, and maybe even say back to that Harlem classroom, what it would have looked like if we walked into it. So
okay, two things. I mean, one, in terms of the philosophy, what I felt and learned and was reinforced during that period is that all kids can learn. And it's our job as teachers and educators to find that key that unlocks the door for each and every student, regardless of their background or ability. That sounds like a cliche, but it was very real for me in those days. The second thing I learned is that all parents want the same things for their children. It doesn't matter whether they're the richest or the poorest, whether they live in Harlem or whether they live on Fifth Avenue. Everyone wants their kids to succeed. They see schools as a social escalator that gives their kids opportunities. And again, it's our job to make that happen. But very often parents, particularly poor minority parents in an area like Harlem, are kind of looked down on. Well, the parents don't care, and that becomes an excuse. And I found that was anything but the truth. The other part of the question was?
Well, we wanted to see what it was like in your classroom in Harlem.
Oh, yeah, if you walked in, I mean, I really believed in hands-on learning, as I said earlier. So what I did was, in the context of, first of all, trying to build self-esteem, I tried to give them a role in the school and in the community that meant something. So we formed a store, the ABC School Supply Store. And we lived in Manhattan, the center of enterprise, and I'd invite up people from the business community, from Wall Street, and they taught them about the stock market and how to capitalize, and we formed stock and we sold stock throughout the community, throughout the school, to other teachers, to parents. And then with that capitalization, we bought inventory and we invited up business people from some of the leading corporations and retailed stores in the area, and developed a relationship. We brought in a banker to teach them about banking. The point is the whole curriculum. There wasn't a curriculum that were the social studies books or math books or reading books. We did everything around the curriculum. The reading books was catalogs, were letters back and forth with various people. And each year we had different types of projects. The school supply store won national awards. It was written up in the Wall Street Journal. The Christian Science Monitor featured on the Associated Press, on local TV in Manhattan. But then, I mean, another year there was the World Fair in New York in the 60s. And so we formed the World's Fair for Care. And they literally ran a World's Fair, and we had people from the World's Fair come up and help them. But the hook, the difference there was each class studied a different country that they put on a World Fair display about, and they learned the culture and the history and raised money at their booths for that country to help the children that were in need in that country. So they were also learning to give back. They were learning to become involved socially. They were learning civic values.
Real hands-on learning, and made it really relevant. Earlier you talked about following your uncle around and wanting to be a teacher from that point forward. And another person who really helped you and inspired you was your is your wife, Barbara, of 54 years. She's played in your decision to teach. She was very supportive during your teaching days in Harlem and throughout your career. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Absolutely. You summed it up very well. And the part that's missing there is my father really didn't want me to teach, and my family wasn't supportive because their view was that teaching wasn't a high enough esteemed profession, and I wouldn't make enough money and that kind of thing. And Barbara always said, you know, what's important in our life is that we're happy together and that we each follow our dream, and always supported me. And there were some very difficult times. And I was also very involved in the teachers union, and she, again, unionism was a negative word in my family. I just saw it as a way to help teachers gain the respect and the pay that they were entitled to. Barbara always supported that. And even she carpooled in. She was a secretary at IBM, and everyone in the carpool was anti-union during those early turbulent days of the unions in the 60s, and nobody talked to her in the carpool. When I was teaching in Harlem, she was always in my class. She joined us on class trips. She received permission from the people at IBM to use their equipment to make copies, to do a yearbook print the yearbook for the school, the ABC school supply store, to do all of those type of things. So, you know, throughout my career, the person that has encouraged me the most and has been more than a partner and best friend has also been a mentor and a person who always said go for it, and if I didn't go for it, would push me to go for it, including running for county superintendent of schools 35 years ago.
Well, another mentor of yours, Al Shanker, also a New Yorker, a shaper of philosophy for education and a champion of students. He was a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. He was a mentor to you, and in fact, I believe he was your first TV interview guest when you first began your TV shows. How did you get to know Al Shanker, and how did he help shape your philosophy?
Yeah, Al was a fantastic person. I mean, how I got to know him, Al Shanker was president of the Teachers Union, and I was very active in the Teachers Union, and I was elected to I was chapter chairman, I was elected to the executive board, the New York executive board, and I got to work with him in that capacity. Al was always an incredible leader. I mean, he was very sincere and deep in the sense that he really believed in the fact that teachers needed to be at the table, and knew how to make that work in a way that was win-win, but also was an incredible negotiator and had very strong principles and values through that period. We worked very closely together. In fact, it turned out, coincidentally, he also lived in the neighborhood, Riverside Heights, and his wife substitute taught in my classroom. So what happened in my classroom, there was a mirror to the Shankers household. But we became good friends through the years, and when I left, and came to Santa Barbara. Al came out several times. I'd meet him at meetings, and when I decided we were going to do the TV shows and give it a try, I said, you know, I really need a name, Al. A drawer, would you be my guest? And he said, sure. So he did it, and we did that very first TV show at a classroom in Goleta. We wanted to be on site. It was a hot day. We had the door open, and what I still remember more than anything else was we were having a deep conversation, but throughout that deep conversation, a fly kept circling around Al's nose and kept trying to swat it away. And whenever I'd see him in the future, we'd always kid more about the fly than anything else.
I love it. So you've talked a little bit about your beginnings here in Santa Barbara. Can you say a little bit about your trek from New York to Santa Barbara with the stop in Atlanta for 5 years in between?
Yeah, well, when I was teaching in New York for the 8 years I was there, toward the end, I was invited to a national conference on teaching excellence. It was a very small conference sponsored by the Mead Corporation, who was just getting into education and wanting to meet with educators. And they invited 12 educators from across the nation to meet with them for a dialogue with them and other education leaders in Tucson, Arizona, that was chaired by the Dean of the Graduate School of Harvard University Education. In that conversation, I guess, I had some very strong things to say about education and where it was going and some of the issues we were facing. And much to my surprise, about 2 weeks after the conference, I got a phone call from the president of the corporation, and he said, "We're forming an education division, as you know, but we'd like you to be the head of product development." And I said, "But I don't know anything about products. I teach. I've never been good with my hands. I can't make things." He said, "You don't have to. Just come out. We're impressed with the values about what works for teachers, what's important, how you involve people, and that's the same kind of thing we're looking at in that division." So I eventually agreed to do it. Barbara and I sold our house, and we were in Atlanta in about a 7-week period, and the rest is history. We did that for 5 years, and then good years. Also got very involved in Common Cause during that period, and became very active civically in the Atlanta community. And Barbara and I co-chaired Common Cause for John Gardner, who is the founder, and then came to Santa Barbara.
So when you first came to Santa Barbara, you had a couple of first big jobs, and one of them was that you founded the Center for Community Education. Many of the programs still are ongoing today and as strong as ever. A few of them are Partners in Education, which bridges the business community to educators, Children's Creative Projects, serving art programs in schools throughout the county, and hosting eModinari, amongst other programs as well. So how did that become into existence, and how is it that those ideas came to fruition?
Well, it's basically the same philosophy when we were talking about teaching: involvement, meaningful involvement. That's really how all of those programs, they're all partnership programs. They're all of the arts programs. Children's Creative Projects involves the artist and brings professional artists who aren't teachers into the schools to teach their craft that they love. Partners in Education brings business people who really care about education, and whether it be career education or general education, and want to help and are willing to share their resources. So the trick is to put people together and find that vehicle. And Partners in Education served as a broader umbrella and a broader clearinghouse. But it's the whole philosophy of getting people involved in the same kind of learning as in the classroom, of getting kids involved in a meaningful way, in a hands-on way, that really shows people, that really shows them how to get things done. And it's the same thing with the partnerships that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So Bill, having served 34 years as County Superintendent of Schools, you've mentored many people within the county, the state, and the nation. But if we turn the tables and said, well, who's mentored you? Who were really those people who've really provided impact for you as a mentor? Who are some of them? You've named a few today. Who are some others?
Well, first, let me say that in terms of my mentoring people, really everyone mentored me. You've mentored me. Everyone that I've worked with here has mentored me. You know, John Gardner taught me many years ago that one of the most important leadership skills to develop is to find good people and turn them loose, and to find people who have skills much better than your own, and welcome that and let them do their job. And give psychic pay. So everyone that's been on the team brings much more than I bring to the table. All of our partners bring much more than I bring to the table. If there's a magic, it's been in creating the vehicle but everyone has been a mentor for me, and that's what I feel so fortunate, because it's been such a wonderful learning experience. And many of the leading mentors through the years was a teacher at New York University who was my advisor and really saw that I was struggling in terms of who I was and what I wanted to do, and placed me in Harlem and placed me at the Little Red Schoolhouse in Greenwich Village, where I met Murray Eisner, who became another teacher, the best teacher I've ever met, another mentor who was the best teacher I ever met, and who guided me and supported me, not just when I was student teaching in his classroom, but really throughout my career. And the principal at PS 125, Ann Ruddy, who trusted me and put faith in me and let me experiment with the kids in ways that were somewhat unorthodox and unusual. And the list goes on. We talked about Al Shanker, Barbara, here certainly Peter McDougall. When we started partners, we started working very closely together. Peter was one of the early presidents, and as well as being president of Santa Barbara City College at the time. And he always guided me and encouraged me, and was really a role model as well, because I often looked at the way he did things, the way he worked with the community, the way he was always positive and upbeat. And try to follow in his footsteps, and often seek his counsel to this day. As you know, Peter McDougall was on our board and is constantly giving us excellent advice and support. And the list goes on. I almost hate to mention names because you leave out so many, but the point is that everyone has been such a wonderful model to me that all I could say is thank you, thank you, thank you to the entire Santa Barbara community, because it's such a rare place with so many caring, giving people.
That's great. Okay, well, looking back over your career, Bill, as County Superintendent of Schools of 34 years, what would you say are you most proud of?
Well, I'm most proud. I mean, there are a lot of things. That's a tough one to answer in a couple of minutes. But if I had to try to globalize it, it's probably the ability to create an environment where I was able to do the things that we talked about, that Gardner taught me about, attracting good people and turning them loose. I think and recognizing the good qualities and the potential of people in the community. So really bringing in quality people and turning them loose and giving and allowing for them the big thing for them, because as we all know in education the pay isn't great, but there's psychic pay. Having them have the reward of being able to achieve and do something they believe in and see consequences that really make a difference on the bottom line. And the same thing with the community. And then the other piece of that is, I mean, one of my favorite quotes, you've heard it way too many times, I know, is from John Gardner about put your faith in ideas, ideals, movements, people, and goals. Don't put your faith in organizational forms, because people are forever building the church but killing the creed. And with that psychic pay approach, I've always tried to keep my focus on the creed and not get caught up in the weeds. Really work with people who have big ideas and find ways to enable things, and let others worry about the organizational form, but not let that become the goal and the end in itself. It really is about people, number one, and then ideas, ideals, and ideals.
That's great. So for emerging leaders, Bill, up-and-comers, what advice would you give them? Those who want to perhaps start their 34 years in education.
Well, first, put your faith in people, ideas, ideals, and goals, and not organizational forms. Don't get caught up in the weeds. Attract and surround yourself with good people. Be positive. Recognize that, have a can-do attitude. The glass really is half full, and it's more than half full. And recognize, particularly in Santa Barbara County, that we live in a very unique community where people really care, where they really want to get involved. They're here because they want to be here, and they have much to give. So seek them out. Don't be afraid to ask, and welcome them in, and find meaningful ways for them to be engaged, and take risks. Don't be afraid. There's everything to gain and nothing to lose. It's really all about making things better. And finally, the last thing is, again, another Gardnerism, but always appeal to the higher instincts in people, particularly in troubling times like this, because people on all sides, regardless of their political philosophy, really want to do the right thing and want to do what's right and what's good. And how you appeal to them, whether you appeal to the high instinct or the low instinct, very often a lot of people respond to that. So set a high standard, set a high tone, give people the opportunity to do what's right and good, and more often than not, good things will happen.
That's great. Much of our time today has been spent looking back, your career, your path, how you got there, and the ingredients to the success as a county superintendent. So let's take a minute and look forward. I know you're looking forward to spending some time with your family. Tell us a little bit about that, your plans in retirement.
Well, first, family, absolutely right. I really am. My son and his wife and 2 grandkids, Peter and Blanca, Jade and Meyer, live in Minnesota. We happen to be on the Hazelden Betty Ford board, which is also Minnesota-based. So we do get there periodically on business, and we'd like to get there more often just for fun and vacation. So we look forward to spending time with them. They're amazing. They have amazing stories to tell in themselves, and they too encourage and teach me. I learn from them all the time. Certainly in terms of, I serve on several boards. I'll continue to do that, and I'll be involved in the community, but I don't have plans per se. I mean, I've always been the kind of person, I've never planned my next move or my next career. I've always let things come to me, and when the time feels right, just like this move, it took me 34 years to determine the time was right, and I'm 78 years old, and you know, I could probably still easily go another 10 years, but I just try to like to let things come to me. And that's what I'm going to do, and that's how Barbara feels. We look forward to spending more time together and travel to Minnesota and just let it flow.
In our final question, Bill, today, I want to give you an opportunity to address the community of which you've led and served for 34 years. What message would you like to send?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the children, to serve the parents, to serve the entire Santa Barbara County community the past 34 years. I thank you for the trust and confidence that you've put in me. I thank you for the support and the caring. I thank you for all that you do and giving community-wide. As I said earlier, there's a fantastic community, and it's the people in the community throughout the county, in all parts of the county, that come together to make it happen. And I look forward to being with you on your side of the table, volunteering and doing the same thing and continuing the relationship. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being my guest today, and thank you for being such an incredible mentor for me. And on behalf of the students and the teachers and the whole community of Santa Barbara County, we just want to say thank you. Your legacy has impacted all of us. So
and thank you, Susan, for the tremendous skills that you bring to the task, for your willingness to take on the job, and for the dynamic leadership I have every confidence that you're going to provide in the future. We're very fortunate to have you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Local Leaders.